Shalom. First off, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Baharachakodash. I want to give double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of GMS who have taught us this word and teach us this word today. And I want to give a salutation unto the elect of the nation of Israel. This is the Brother Yatazakba with the GMS Nebraska camp. And in this lesson, I just want to, speak a few words on this recent meeting that was, with all these military leaders that happened yesterday. Trump took the stand and gave a speech. You had Pete Hegseth, which is the leader of the now Secretary of War. Used to be the Secretary of Defense, but now he's the Secretary of War. He came and said some words, and as we go into it, it's really showing that there is something's coming down the pipeline. Things are being set up. Ultimately, martial law is coming soon, this is a play being set up, with what we're about to read about how, you got more National Guard being sent into more countries. It's not just countries on the East Coast no more. It's not just Chicago, New York, DC. Now they talking about sending them to Portland, Oregon, in these different places, and we're about to go ahead and just read into it. This is from AP News. The article is titled "Trump Calls for Using U.S. Cities as a Training Ground for Military in Unusual Speech to Generals." It says, President Donald Trump on Tuesday proposed using American cities as training grounds for the armed forces and spoke of needing U.S. military might to combat what he called the invasion from within. And what you're going to notice is that with these different things that Trump has been talking about, where he talks about that there's an invasion from within, that there's an enemy within the U.S. that needs to be addressed, that, Antifa are domestic terrorists, all these different things he's saying are very general. He's not being specific, because Antifa in and of itself, that's not a terroristic group like you have ISIS, to where, if you're part of ISIS, you know who the enemy is. You know what the target is. It's the group ISIS. Antifa isn't a specific group. Antifa is just a branding or a label that you can put on anybody who, who has certain ideas, such as being, against capitalism, or against America, or against the government, or, just against different things, against right-wing politics. If you're deemed extreme left-wing, then you're Antifa. If you're against Trump and the things that he's doing, then you're Antifa. And it's showing that, the enemy can be labeled and manufactured as whatever he wants it to be based off of how he's speaking, and that's very important. But, we'll revisit that. Let's read on. It says, addressing an audience of military brass abruptly summoned to Virginia, Trump outlined a muscular and at times norm-shattering view of the military's role in domestic affairs. He was joined by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who declared an end to woke culture and announced new directives for troops that include gender-neutral or male-level standards for physical fitness. And this is important as well, because they're saying that, okay, we about to be sending, these National Guard troops, these military troops out at a higher level. And he's saying that they need to be a certain level of physical fitness. They need to reach a certain standard. And if they don't, as we read on, it says that if they don't reach that standard, then they can either remove themselves or will remove them. But they're saying, it stands out that they're saying, we need to make sure that these people we sending out reach a certain level of physical fitness, and they need to get out of that woke culture mindset. And what's that woke culture mindset? He's basically saying that soft mindset. But when you think about woke, is, pro-black, quote unquote, you can't be in a mindset to where how they got it to where you can profile the Northern Kingdom, or you can profile Jake and just snatch him up, send him to a concentration camp, do whatever you want, and you have a problem with that, you got to get out of that mindset. That's basically what they're saying. And so, for them to say, get your mind ready, make sure you physically fit and meeting our standard, something big is about to happen. And they're making sure that their troops is physically prepared for whatever's about to happen, to where they can roll down on the people efficiently. And I want to grab a precept real fast. First, this since I got this one up, this is Isaiah chapter 19, verse 4, which says, "And the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, said the Lord of hosts." Trump is fulfilling this prophecy because America is the modern day Egypt. And it says the Egyptians or the Americans will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord and a fierce king. Trump is fulfilling that. Because what is he doing? He's going against the Constitution. He's going against the laws that are set up to protect the American people from these different things that he's doing. And he's just going full steam ahead. He's just coming down with an iron fist. That law that he passed to where now you can profile. If somebody is speaking Spanish, they're working a job that a Mexican would seem to work. They're, in this environment that, and if it seems like they fit the bill, snatch them up. There's no due process. You can just bring them with. That's him being as that cruel Lord. The fact that, he's slowly but surely turning this country into a military, a national military state. That's him being a cruel Lord. But I want to grab this real fast. Slakia. This is Mark chapter 3, verse 24, which says, and if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And this is showing the fragility of this country that we're in. Because the fact that Trump is going as far as to, bring the military against his own people and saying that there's an enemy within that needs to be, quelled or gone after, that's showing what? That there's an increasing number of people who are becoming irritated with Trump, with the government, with the leaders. Because I want to go back to because that point that I made earlier with Antifa and him saying, anybody that's labeled Antifa, you're now a domestic terrorist. A large amount of people are going to now be labeled Antifa. Why? Because they are against the stuff that Trump is doing. And it's not that they just are, anarchists and they just want to see, the country burn. No, it's because they see that Trump is doing unconstitutional things. But now, because he's doing unconstitutional things and you're saying that that's wrong and you're against what he's doing, you're against his policies, now you're a domestic terrorist. It's showing that there's an abrasion going on in this country. People are becoming more separate than ever, and people are becoming more distrusting of the government than ever. To the point where now military about to be all throughout the different cities. And I'll save that precept I'll bring it out here in a couple minutes. This is let's go back to the article, Salakia. It says the dual messages underscored the Trump administration's efforts not only to reshape contemporary Pentagon culture, but to enlist military resources for the president's priorities and for decidedly domestic purposes, including quelling unrest and violent crime. Now, the thing is, in these different countries, or not countries, these different states and cities that, the military is being sent out, such as Chicago, for example, he's saying that, they need to be sent here because crime is on a rise, a level that unprecedented level, and there's too much going on and we got to shut it down. But when you look at the statistics in D.C., in Chicago, and these different places, crime is at a lower level than it's been in years. So if it's about quelling unrest and violent crime and you're telling the military to get ready for something, be at a certain standard of physical fitness, a certain mindset, that means that something is about to come down the pipeline. These different military and National Guard troops are being sent out to these cities because they need to get familiarized with these cities, because they need to get prepared and set up, and what's going to come very soon, I suspect that there's going to be some sort of black swan event, or Trump is going to keep on doing stuff that's going to cause, like we see in these different countries around the world, like Nepal, where there was a breaking point to where now they rising against their government and taking things into their own hand. Well, the scriptures prophesy that that's going to happen here. And whether it's going to come by way of Trump continuously just doing things against the American people and they finally snap and do something, or some type of black swan event that causes the American people to snap and finally try to uprise against the government, Now the troops are already in the cities to quell that unrest right then and there. They can be activated just like that. Let's go to this is the precept I was holding, 2 Esdras 15 and 16, which says, "For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power." What's that sedition? That's basically insurrection against the government. You know, people gonna be, like, man, we can't trust y'all no more. You know, y'all not doing well by us, so we just gonna take our power into our own hands. You know, let's go back to the article. It says, "We should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military," Trump said. He noted at another point, "We're under invasion from within, no different than a foreign enemy, but more difficult in many ways because they don't wear uniforms." It says, after calling hundreds of military leaders and their top advisors from around the world to the Marine Corps base in Quantico, Hegseth largely focused on long-used talking points that painted a picture of a military hamstrung by woke policies. He said military leaders should do the honorable thing and resign if they don't like his new approach. So Trump, Trump and the people underneath him, they in that mindset. They in that cruel Lord Iron Fist mindset. Him changing the Department of Defense to the Department of War, that may seem like, it's just a name change, but that's deeper. That's showing what type of way that he about to be moving. He don't want to be responsive to things no more. He's about to go on the offensive. He's about to be, as the apostle said, Trump about to start moving proactively with his military. Let's get that word proactive in the etymology. Proactive. It says, as an opposition to reactive, taking the initiative in a situation, anticipating events. And this is very anticipatory that they're doing, because there's nothing really going on to the fact that they're talking about they need to quell unrest and these states and cities are too crime ridden. They need to send them out here right now. There's nothing really going on that level. So they're moving in a way that they're anticipating that something is about to go on, and they're getting ready for something to go on. But let's go back to the article. It says, let me see. I want to scroll down a bit and get to a good point. Trump said that they're not going to be politically correct. And that could come in the form of many different things. That means that they about to start coming after Jake more brazenly, as they already are. That means that they could start, coming after women, children. They can start doing, they can start being more brazen in the things that we already seeing that they doing. Start ignoring due process. Start sending U.S. citizens to these concentration camps, sending them to different countries. They're not being politically correct. They're just doing, what they seem fit. What they deem fit. Let's see. It says, Trump encouraged the audience at the outset of his speech to applaud as they wish, because the audience was very quiet. These military leaders, they wasn't, clapping or nothing like that. They was real silent as Trump was speaking. And that's why he mentioned, like, y'all could clap if y'all want to. He's kind of being sarcastic, but he says, he then added, "If you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank. There goes your future." Like, they talking about, man, you could just leave the military if y'all not about to get down with this new way that we about to be coming. It says, "The era of politically correct, overly sensitive, don't hurt anyone's feelings leadership ends right now at every level." So we about to see something real soon. And like I mentioned, this is very proactive that the military is being set up in the way that they are. This is preparations for something greater that's about to come. And like I mentioned, it only takes a couple of events. We see how this CK situation stirred up the minds of the American people. But that's small compared to what we're going to be seeing, that, different things that's going to be happening that's going to stir up the American people to where, it may get them to the point of uprising, of rebelling against this government. And boom, that's why this has been set up. Now, we know ultimately this is targeting the prophets. That's why the scriptures say in 2 Esdras 16, verse 71, or verse 70, it says, "For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord." And for, because you have prophets in almost, every state, in every city, preaching this word. And based off of the things that we preach, and we will be labeled Antifa. We will be labeled domestic terrorists. Why? Because we preach, we preach America's downfall. We preach that the Lord is going to return and destroy this place. We come against Esau and the different things he's trying to set up. So, we would be labeled this, and we could be targeted, which means what? That we not about to be on these corners for very much longer. We're not going to be preaching on the highways and byways very much longer. The famine of the word is coming, as well as martial law. It says they should be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. So they about to start coming down heavy. We're seeing the play be set up. Again, I don't know exactly the 1, 2, 3 step by step on what is going to happen to where they're going to be fully activated, but we can blatantly see a play being set up. So let me see if there's anything else I want to grab here. Let me see. Nah, that's pretty much the point. Just want to go into this. They loosening the that tight leash that they had on the military. They getting out of that quote unquote woke mindset, like Trump likes to say. They about to stop Trump about to stop tiptoeing. He about to do whatever he want to, and more brazenly than ever. A prophecy is coming to pass. So Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. Once again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahar Chakadash. I'm going to give double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of GMS, and the salutations